Welcome back to Switched to Linux. So on this tutorial, we are going to walk through utilizing the generic VirtualBox to just have a look at how to boot up various Linux distros. So we're going to look at three different distributions that I picked out to have a look at our Windows machine. I'm picking Ubuntu. Once again, used this on the Mac platform. The Ubuntu is one of the most popular Linux operating systems, and in fact, it provides the code base for several of the Linux systems that are out there. This is one of the ones with the biggest support behind it and a lot of good development. It does use a Unity desktop, which is at times controversial, but we are going to have a look at Ubuntu there. The next one we're going to look at is called Peppermint, and this is a base off of it's a code base from the Ubuntu, but it's actually has a lot of system similarities based on the Linux Mint system. And this one here, we're going to be looking at the XFCE desktop, which is going to be a different desktop take that's somewhat similar to a Windows system. And the last one we're going to look at is Linux Mint. And this is actually my preferred Linux distro if you are coming from a Windows system and wanting to try out Linux. I like this one because the first major reason is it just works. Out of the box, Linux Mint, when I first looked at Linux Mint, I was looking at the best Linux platform to move to away from Windows. Linux Mint ended up just being star and above everything else. I like it. There's some controversy surrounding some of the policies and whatever in the Linux community, but I'm more concerned about the usability than I am little nuances that developers and programmers know quite a bit more about than I do. And so we're going to have a look at Linux Mint for our last one. So what I have done is I've gone to the individual download pages on each of these systems. You can track down the download pages and then just select the ones. So Linux Mint is available in Cinnamon, Mate, or XFCE. I'm downloaded the Cinnamon is the desktop environment that I like the best here. So I did that on each of these three distros, downloaded the correct ISOs. They're about 1 gigabyte or so each, so you might want to download those, particularly if you have a slower internet connection. You can download those. If you do need to purchase a copy, I'm pretty sure, and I didn't look at this prior to making the video, but I'm pretty sure you can purchase copies of Ubuntu directly from them, and I think you can from Linux Mint directly from them. I'm not sure if Peppermint has that option or not. But what we're going to do here is we're going to boot up our virtual machine with our generic machine that we made in our last tutorial, and we're going to run these guys just off of the machine as a live key. We're not going to be installing these, and we're not going to be looking at these in any great detail either. So my three distros are right up here on the top of the desktop. I just put them up there. So we have created our generic Linux test machine in the last video. So what we're going to do first here is just put the first distro in the drive. So we're going to come down here to the storage where it says optical drive empty. Click on this, and then I can choose the disk image. Since I've already put all of these in here to have a quick look at them, you can select them from the most recent list here, or you can just select the disk image here, navigate to where you have your distros placed, and then highlight it and click the open. So now you'll see that in the CD drive here is this ISO image for Ubuntu. Hit the start button, and then we are going to start booting the machine up. So there's several different hotkeys, and each one is different on the systems here. So I've already switched these into the full screen mode. Prior, as I was looking at these, this is the mode I prefer to look at. So the full screen mode on a Windows computer is going to be your right control key and the F button. And then it's going to give you that pop-up the first time you do that. You can keep it there and have it keep on popping up, or you can just tell it, don't show this pop-up again. You get the same with these guys up here at the top. You'll see that it's telling us that we have auto-captured our keyboard, which means that as I start using my keyboard, it's going to move directly into the Linux machine. I can hit the little blue X up here to dismiss the message, and I can actually hit the do not show this particular message again, which is what I'm going to do here. Same thing with the mouse pointer. I'm going to hit the button to prevent that message from popping up again. And I get a screen here at the bottom of the screen which has some information, basically our file menus. This will allow us to toggle between our full screen on and off mode as well. So we're going to wait for this guy to boot up. So you can see it's going on the starts, the initial booting screen. You will notice on these distros here, as we're loading them in the ISO image, that they are not taking up the full screen. That's because we need to install the guest editions. Now, Linux Mint, and wanting to be user-friendly and realizing that a lot of people will look at Linux distros in a desktop environment for the initial exploration of them, they've actually installed the guest editions for us. So when we go to boot up our Linux Mint, you will see it will boot nicely into a full screen mode. The other distros don't do that. Now, if you have followed the Mac setup videos, you'll see that we did an entire session on just installing the guest editions in the Fedora, which is a little bit harder to do. In these Ubuntu-based systems, this is just so much easier. You literally just have to go into the software store and just type in virtual machine guest editions, and you're set to go. So here we'll have the option to either install or try. In fact, we will get an error if we try to install it, because if you remember, this machine does not actually have a hard drive on it to explore, which we will set up in our next tutorial as we are talking about how to actually build and install a Linux machine that you can keep coming back to the same machine over and over again. You can work on it, save files on it, use it for whatever purpose. So we hit the Try Ubuntu button there, and now it's going to load us up into the screen where we're going to try it out. One of the things you'll notice here is the clock right now says 8:37 and our actual local time is 4:37. This is one of the little minor annoyances with Ubuntu if you're changing between your different operating systems. The way most operating systems, and particularly Ubuntu, uses the clock, one of them uses your local time, the other one uses the global time, and so you will get an offset of your hour differences. You can change that in the Ubuntu system if you are going to be installing this on your virtual machine and working with it, just so that your clock is consistently set. So that's a fairly easy thing to do. You can see here that the Unity bar over here, and another quick note as we go through, these virtual machines are slower than running the system on your computer. It's much easier to explore these in the fuller aspect running them on a key, booting your computer into it, rather than using the virtual machines, particularly if a lower end computer. And this little computer here, I paid $200 for this. It's a micro tower. It only has 1.2 gigahertz processor. It's a really bad computer, but it will still work just fine just for doing a quick test through these Linux distros. So up here in Ubuntu, we have, this is effectively like your click the button here to search for software. So if you want to do something about sound, just type in sound and you'll see here is the application that controls your sounds. But if you want to do something like, hey, Rhythm Box, there's a good one there. So Rhythm Box is where you can play your music from. Video as the default video editor. You can see Thunderbird is pre-installed on here for doing email. We have access to a Firefox browser pre-installed and ready to go. So we can boot this up. And the good thing about these machines is they're pretty much set up to bridge off of your existing internet connection. And so you can see up here in the upper right of the screen is where we have our clock, we have our volume settings, we have our internet connection. And so here we are loading up. The first time you load up Firefox, it's going to give you these browser buttons over here, just information about Firefox. And you can see the internet is working. This Ubuntu install on this VirtualBox is very slow. This is not the user experience you're going to have running Ubuntu natively. And if you have a decent computer, it's not the experience you're going to get. Just to show you, we can go to a web page. We can go right into Start page there, and it'll load up. Ubuntu also comes pre-installed with the LibreOffice, so you have your Word, Excel, and PowerPoint compatible type programs. They also have an Amazon app here that you can load this up and look at Amazon. It is worth noting that if you do some searches through this, it gets marketed back as Amazon as if you're coming from Mechanical, and the developer of this Ubuntu platform will actually benefit from that. So if you do want to have a nice way of supporting Canonical that puts out Ubuntu, you can actually do the shopping from that Amazon app. So there's a real quick tour. Oh, let's just show you the settings. You can get to the settings by coming over here and typing settings. They are attached over here. I've actually, just because this Unity bar can get crowded if you have a lot of commonly used applications, I actually take the settings off the bar because you can access the system settings from the menu up here. So that's generally where I access the settings from. You'll see here that there's a lot of settings available. We can do software updates, system backups, date and time settings. You have your user accounts. You can control your displays, your printers, all this information here, and then your appearance will allow you to adjust your desktop backgrounds. We have online accounts, so you can see here's the wallpapers that they have, and then the launcher icon size here will actually control how big the Unity bar is. So if I do want to have a lot of applications on the bar, particularly if I know how I have my setup is, set up here, you can actually make those icons pretty small. So you can fit a lot more on there than our initial default. You can select your individual wallpaper that you want to use. And again, running in the virtual machine, nothing that we do in here is going to be saved. But there's a real quick walkthrough through the Ubuntu system. So we're going to go ahead and shut this down and boot up the next system. And I'm probably going to cut out the video while it's doing the shutdown process because this will take a few moments. I'm going to hold the control and push the F button, which will go back down into our, takes us out of the full screen mode, and then I'm going to wait for this guy to shut down and come back when that is done. Okay, so that is shut down. So now we're going to load up Peppermint. So we're going to come down to our storage down here, and we're going to choose the disk image, and we're going to load up Peppermint this time. Hit the start, and then this is going to load back up here. So I'm going to hit the control and the F. I'm going to go ahead and switch this so I don't see this setting again. So this is going to give us a menu. Do we want to try Peppermint OS? Do we want to install it? Check for disk defects, memory boot from hard disk. We're just going to hit the try Peppermint there. I'm just going to hit enter and do that. And then this is going to load in a different desktop environment. So this XFCE that we're loading in this on this system, this gives people a feel of an older style start menu, kind of like an XP era type start menu. So we'll have a search bar up at the top. We can do different categories and settings. The one thing I don't like about Peppermint is I really don't care for the icon base that they have. I kind of have the same problem with Linux Mint. The good news is about these desktops in Linux is it is easy to change your icons around if you want to do that. I really like that functionality to, you can really make these Linux distros your own by either downloading and installing themes. You can even create your own if you are creative enough. Okay, so it actually looks like Peppermint also has guest editions already built in, and I believe that's probably because Peppermint is actually based on a Linux Mint core, so it will give us that information. So here we're looking at the Peppermint Desktop. We have this bar over here allows us to switch workstations over here on the lower right here over by the clock. You can see that we have our internet connected. Here, if we happen to have a wireless card, we'd see wireless in there as well. There's your audio input options, things like that. So up here is our menu. So this is what I was talking about with the menu kind of has a Windows XP type feel. So in this type of menu, what we have in the XFCE is up here we have a favorites, which is the default when we just click our menu button. So this will take a list of the most recent applications that you're running. So you could actually, just using the keyboard shortcuts, you could actually go up and use the mouse there to just highlight the program that you want to load up. And then you can also have different categories over here where you can just hover over each of these categories and you'll be able to see all the different items that are available. One of the things that you'll notice about Linux or Peppermint here is it does have a lot of extra newer features that some more modern users might be looking for that are just now coming around to some of the Linux distros. So we have a Dropbox, a BitTorrent system on here already set to go. I believe under Office we have a Google Calendar, a Google Drive set up. So all you need to do is just access your settings panel, which is going to be up here, and then you can sign into your user accounts. I got to remember where those are. I actually don't use those types of user accounts, so I got to see if they're in here or if they're somewhere else. Okay, users and groups over there. So customizing your look and feel, panel preferences. Here's a control center. So we'll load up the control center here. You can see all the various settings available here. You do have the dark theme installed by default here, which looks pretty nice actually with the colorations. I love the icons. Just some of these icon bases. The ones I was talking about not really liking as much are some of these guys here, but they're kind of growing on me a little bit. I like the more colorful icons of probably a slightly older era. I'm just curious about this since I don't use these much. I'm going to go into the Google Calendar app there. I'm going to see, let's just see what it does. Let's do the Google Drive. See if this prompts us for a login somewhere. There generally is one unified place where you can install or add your user accounts. We saw that in Internet Accounts, I guess it's called. We saw that in the Ubuntu. Let's see what this does here. Okay, so here it's just taking us right to our Google login screen. So it comes with Firefox as your pre-installed browser. You have a couple games over here, Mahjong, Solitaire. What I don't see right away installed is I don't see like a LibreOffice type thing. I'm wondering if that's because they're thinking people might more use the Google, but I don't even see a link to the Google Office apps. So you just need to install the LibreOffice if it's not on here already. Let's just type in LibreOffice and see if it's here. So it's not. But the XFCE desktop is actually a very nice system. We saw the settings, the colors. Settings are up here. You can lock the screen. User accounts are over here. Let me just do a quick search for internet accounts. Okay. Nope, not bad. All right. So here's if you want to hook up some printers, you can do that. Additional drivers is down here on many Linux distros. If there are proprietary drivers available for your system, they'd be in your additional drivers tab. So if you're having issues with some device not working right, you want to check that out to see where everything is. So that's really quick Peppermint in a nutshell. So we're going to go ahead and hit the, on this one here, to get out of the XFCE, it's a little confusing because you hit the log out button and then it takes you to this screen here where you can shut down, you can reboot, suspend, hibernate, switch users, log screen, log out, or cancel. So we're going to hit the shutdown. And then I'm going to hit my right, it has to be the right control button and F to go back down into your shutdown screen. And so there you can actually see that Peppermint worked much better in the VirtualBox than did the Ubuntu. And I think that has to do with Peppermint is actually a very, very light operating system. So if you're looking for an OS to use on a very low-grade computer like the one I'm working on here, or even an older computer, you know, Peppermint could very well revitalize an old computer that you have laying around. So last, we're going to have a look at Linux Mint. So we're going to hit the optical drive. I'm just going to go ahead and grab it from the hot link over there. We'll hit start. It's going to load up our machine, and then as soon as we start seeing it load up, I'm going to hit my right control button and F to go back into full screen mode. And then it's going to go ahead and boot computer here. We're going to start Linux Mint. Okay, so Linux Mint is getting started here. Quick login screen, leave that alone. It'll boot right into your initial startup. Okay, so here we have Linux Mint. You can see that it started itself right up in full screen mode. We don't even have to fight with the guest editions in this one. So here it says it's just gives us a little notice here about it's running without video hardware acceleration, so you may observe a higher than normal CPU usage. This is because we're running it in a VirtualBox on a very low system resource machine. I'm just going to click that. That's an example of the things you'll see in the notification system. So here you'll see it looks, in my opinion, just so much like the Windows platform. I really like it. I like that you can easily configure, configure how everything looks. The Cinnamon desktop here. Hit a wrong button there. So the Cinnamon desktop here. This also resembles some of the newer operating systems. Anytime you're in here, it's already defaulted up to the top. So if you're looking for a specific application, you know what it is. So here, just type in Fire. We can see we have a Firewall configured and we have Firefox. So you can do either one here. So with this, you can just type in the programs you're looking for. You can search for them over here on the sidebar just by looking for the various systems. You'll see that the whole LibreOffice suite is installed by default. We'll have GIMP installed by default. There are these image viewers in here. There's a similar one for video. These will allow a really low, low system resource way to look at videos and look at pictures. Thunderbird is default installed. Now, a couple of the things that I really like about Linux Mint is you'll notice in some of the Linux distros that there's programs in here that you may not use, or programs you may not use much at all. And you might call it bloatware. I'm not completely sure it is, but maybe. Regardless of things that, anything in here that you don't want, and it may not work since we're on a live key, but if you come over here, it does, you can actually hit on install and you can just pop it right off your machine. I'm not going to try that because we're on a live key. The other thing, though, that you can do on Linux Mint that I really like is if I want to not have something show up in the menu but not uninstall it from the computer, I can actually do that by coming into the menu here, hit the configure. I right-click on the menu instead of left-click, hit the configure, and then this is going to pull up a configuration menu. We can open the menu editor over here, And then we can literally go into each of the categories. So if I come over here, hit the Office category, and I can actually hit the X on the items I don't want to show up on my menu, and they will actually not show up. So hit the close here, hit the close over here, and now if I go back into the Office part of the menu, you'll see that those items do not show up. You can also configure everything that's on this panel down here by editing the panel. And one of the things that I like to do on the panel, I think I hit the wrong button there. Oh, no, maybe that's right. One of the things I like to do on the panel button is I like to move around the various applets. That was the wrong button. This is not something you do all the time. You pretty much get your panel set up right, and then you, oh, there it is, panel edit mode. You can drag and drop things. So just hit the panel edit mode, and now actually I can drag and drop various items. So I like taking this guy here, it's the show desktop icon. I love putting it right over there. Let's go ahead and turn off the panel edit mode. So now that's pretty much all I have to do to have my my show my desktop items. So I can come over here, and no matter what I have loaded up on my bar, I can come over here. I'm just going to wait for that and wait for this to pop up. So I'm going to come down here, just hit the lower right hand corner, hit the click, and it shows the desktop just like it does on a Windows platform. So that's one of the major contributing factors I was actually looking for, because I work a lot off the desktop when I'm doing things. So for me, that was a useful thing to have. So this Cinnamon desktop does actually take a little bit more system resources. It's not super heavy on the resources. It runs about half of the system memory requirements of Windows 7. But it does still take some resources, so it is a little bit slower on this particular VirtualBox. That's okay with me. If you're looking for something to revitalize an old Windows computer, running Peppermint would be a great option. If you're looking for something that would run on a modern computer, Linux Mint is probably your best option if you're looking for a Windows-like system. So it is running slower because we're on a very low-end model computer on a VirtualBox. So the fact we're running 2 operating systems on this machine right now is impressive enough. But this is just a quick walkthrough. Oh, the other thing here on Linux Mint is you can actually, if there's a program that you use frequently, you can actually drag it over here. So you can just come right up to your programs. Here's your settings button over here. We'll just walk through the settings real quick before we end this video here. So here you can change all of your themes, your backgrounds, various effects. Here's your account details, just all the various types of information that you have. I believe account details. Okay, so you can set up your pictures and things like that. So that is a real quick nutshell in Linux Mint on the Cinnamon desktop. So we're going to go ahead and shut this guy down. Hit the shutdown button over here. You'll have the shutdown. Then I'm going to hit my Control and F. And now we're going to go through our shutdown sequence. So this has been Tom at Switched to Linux. And I hope you enjoyed this video giving you some tutorials on how to try out some Linux distributions on a Windows computer.